Namaste, you're on The Nation at 5. I'm Anand Narsimhan and we're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 newsroom, ladies and gentlemen. And the big story, let's turn the spotlight towards the United Kingdom, where Rishi Sunak, in the hot contention for becoming Britain's next Prime Minister, up against Liz Truss, has made some startling declarations. What he has done in a debate where Liz Truss was questioning him and his detractors were questioning him on his position and policy vis-a-vis China and Russia, Rishi Sunak has, not just squashed or trashed the kind of allegations made against him, but he's made some very, very startling announcements. Now, this is what he has turned around and said. Rishi Sunak has turned around and said he's not only labelled China as the #1 security threat to the United Kingdom and the world, he has said that he will shut down all the Confucius Institutes, nearly 30 of them all across Britain, kick out the Chinese Communist Party from the UK universities. He's also said he will try and employ or bring in the MI5 to counter Chinese espionage, and said that there will be a NATO-style international cooperation to tackle Chinese threats in cyberspace. He said he will look to banning Chinese acquisitions in the key British assets, including strategically sensitive tech firms. The contender for 10 Downing Street, he will enact these policies on day one if he's elected Prime Minister of Britain. And he's also said that he slammed China for muzzling the voices in Xinjiang and in Hong Kong. So Rishi Sunak belligerent against China at a time when a lot of the people among the Tories were saying that both these leaders have gone very soft on Russia and on China. They have not been able to say much on the Russia-Ukraine war, take a position against Russia, nor have they said much against China and the Chinese hegemony and their economic imperialism, which they want to impose across the whole world. Now Rishi Sunak coming in and saying that China trying to embed itself into Britain in its educational institutions, in its universities, thought process, trying to influence from within is something that he will weed out. Sanjay Suri is with us. Pranav Bhanot, columnist and councillor, is also with us at the top of this edition of The Nation at 5 as we start with what is happening in Great Britain at this point in the run-up to the next 1 month when the Tories will decide who will be Britain's next Prime Minister. Sanjay Suri, there was a lot of criticism, and it all stemmed from the fact that as Finance Minister, Rishi Sunak's policies were very, very soft against China. I think we just lost Sanjay's audio there. We'll try and get Sanjay back with us in just a bit. But in the meantime, Pranav Bhanot is with us. Pranav, how would you see? There are a lot of, even the right among the Tories. Ian Smith seems to have backed Liz Truss. But there are other media which claim that you had the Russian foreign minister actually turn around and say Liz Truss did not know Russian territories from Ukraine. And she herself has taken a very, very soft approach against China. Will Rishi Sunak's strong position now, will it actually help him? Because he himself admitted over the weekend that he was a weak candidate.
So Sanjay, that's a very good question. What we're seeing today from Rishi's campaign is a robust stance on China. We haven't seen this yet, so you're absolutely right. The problem with this campaign is that whether it's good or bad, it's being run by the press. Whatever people are getting in terms of information, the majority of it is coming from press outlets. That's how I see the majority of the Conservative membership getting the majority of information. So these strong points are good because essentially it's allowing the candidates to get maximum attention from the press side. So I think these comments are welcome, but whether they're actually going to be implemented, I think is a different question at the moment. These are good to try and draw attention, get traction, but whether they're feasible to implement when one of the prime ministers are selected is yet to be seen.
But is this going to help? Wow. Who do you think is ahead in the race? Is Rishi Sunak now, is this going to bolster his campaign? Has he now pushed Liz Truss to take a strong position against China and also on the Russia-Ukraine war?
Some critics of Rishi Sunak are saying your position on China has come far too late. Conversely, like you said, when Liz Truss went to Russia and spoke with the Russians about foreign policy, she didn't seem to know her facts. So I think it would certainly help the fact that Rishi Sunak is now talking foreign policy. I think it would really help. But, he's coming from a trailing position. I think you and I spoke last week. He was somewhat behind Liz Truss. I still think he is behind Liz Truss. So now his aim is to get as many strong, robust points on policy as possible to try and win over that membership. I'm not sure if it's enough yet, but if he carries on like this, I think he will certainly gain more ground than he's already got.
He's got more than about 35 days to be able to try and make ground, and each day is a win or a loss in terms of how you take a position. Sanjay Suri is also with us. Sanjay, if you can hear me, we'll try and go across to Sanjay Suri in just a bit. But in terms of policy and Rishi Sunak's comments against the Confucius Institutes, against Chinese in embedding themselves into British educational institutions, against Chinese espionage, all of this largely among the British people, beyond just the Conservative Party, how do you think it has been received so far, Pranav?
So far, it has been received as, from the very limited experience, positive. But, China is still a massive country. It's a massive economy. I think you've always got to be careful about how critical you're going to be when you have one of the fastest growing economies in the country. So I think whilst these sweeping policies may help the candidates among their membership within the party and trying to gain traction, I think there has to be caution. There always has to be caution when you have a country that's growing at the rate China is at. We may need to rely on them for various kind of strategic alliances. So I think fine if people are going to make sweeping comments like Rishi Sunak is doing, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt. I think caution has to be adopted because you cannot dismiss the giant that China is and the role it's playing on the world stage.
True. I've got Sanjay Suri also with me on the phone line. Sanjay, at this point, this statement by Rishi Sunak, he needn't have taken a position as detailed as he has, but he's also made a promise that this will be one of the first things that he does on day one of office if he becomes Prime Minister.
Yeah, this is working at two levels for Rishi Sunak. At the first level, of course, this is intended to win over a lot of the Tory right wing that a lot of pundits believe, rightly or wrongly, is favouring Truss more than it is favouring him. And this is the language of China they want to hear. This is the language on China that many in the country want to hear, but nobody's been speaking this language, never mind taking policies in line with it. We've heard a lot of waffling and about this and about that on China. This clearly is a position he would take and implement were he to be elected, but short of that, it is certainly intended and is very likely to win over a considerable extent of support for him. But at the second level, he is also, as a fallback, setting up a standard for Truss to be judged again, were she to be elected, in fact, for a standard for her to fail against, as he is doing with the economy. Truss has really dug herself into a hole on that one. If she borrows that money, that certainly will become inflationary, and we're talking about borrowing £30 billion to fund tax cuts. That certainly would be inflationary. That would get her into trouble. Not acting in China would get her into trouble. So this is a strategy really at two levels.
Well, clearly, so the path is laid out for her in terms of how she responds to Rishi Sunak. But Rishi Sunak now slowly seems to be now fleshing out his policy and his approach for Britain as Prime Minister if he does get the vote of the Conservative Party leadership.